So you just said something that I don't hear very often. And I come from an accounting background where we talked about reports like day in and day out, pretty much 365 days a year. But I don't remember anyone ever saying, I'm so excited to talk about reports.
I know what you mean. When I started my career in reporting, I made up my own little jingle, for myself to kind of brand myself in the corporate office so people would know who I am. And I was hoping that they would be excited to hear from me, because I always had to reach out to them to be like, your report is due at 4 o'clock yesterday. So I always used to say, I do reporting fun for everyone. And they were like, yeah, sure. We still don't buy it. We don't like you. We want you to go away. And I was like, no, I'm really nice. Come talk to me, please. Please get your report in on time. So I know no one is ever excited about reports except me and you. And so when I met you and you're like, I did financial reporting for years, I'm like, there it is. There are people who do it and love it.
Absolutely. And I've actually, I don't know if you saw my post this morning. I know you saw it, but I confessed in posting about our interview today that part of my journey over the last 8 years has been, first of all, fleeing from reports as much as I possibly could, escape, and really wanting nothing to do with any of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Or so I thought. Even when I was escaping, I found that I actually did daily reporting on my own life. Did I exercise this morning? Did I do whatever? Did I, and the reason I began doing that was because I was so dang depressed that I needed some way just to see if I was doing what I knew was going to add value to my life, right?
To see it, you said.
Yes,
absolutely. To see it.
Yes. And just, and I made it as simple as I possibly could. And I'm a guy who can do like crazy, weird things with Excel, but all I did was, header, date, the top column headers were the dates, the left column were like all the things that I wanted to be doing on a regular basis, right? And then I just put a simple X in there, nothing else. It's just, did I do it or did I not? Tally mark, and I can't tell you how helpful that was, just to keep something as simple as that. Did I meditate today? Did I go for a walk today? Did I draw today? Did I whatever? And just to see that simple reporting, very little, hardly any programming involved in it at all, but it made such a huge difference in my life. Yeah. So I'm curious as to what gets you excited about reports. Why the big smile on your face when we're talking about what many people think is anathema to, the whole time I was in corporate finance, my wife never asked me, so what did you do today? She didn't want to hear about my day, and honestly, I didn't want to tell her about my day.
You're like, I don't want to talk about this particular reference that took me 3 hours to untangle. Like, that was just
right. Yes.
Yeah. Well, okay. For me, a lot of it I have a background in education and communication, right? So everything I learned from formal studies, from being at places like Synectics World, learning facilitation, everything I learned and knew was about words and how words became something else. So there was this way that we could have a report, and that report goes and sits in front of these people who digest and eat this information or data, depending on how the report was. And then their mind would just do magical things and come out with decisions that made the business do well. And we all got to keep our jobs. And well, look, that's getting a paycheck. That's exciting, and so it was really this profound moment. I was at AT&T and I was asked to come into the boardroom to bring my boss a report he had forgotten. And I think I was about 23 at the time. I had no business being in a boardroom. I walked in, I tripped over the little foot plate where you walk in the door, right? The door jamb foot plate. So literally my first step into a boardroom was tripping and falling. And I fell forward onto the back of this chair where this guy was sitting, and that turned out to be the CFO.
Mm.
And he was not a very he didn't understand jocularity. He was not a funny man, you know. But he was very gracious to me for having just fallen on him. And I thought, wow, I just tripped and fell in front of all these people and he made it okay.
Mm.
So it was my first taste was disaster on my part, grace on his part. And I've always found every member of a boardroom to be very gracious ever since. And that maybe it's because that's what I'm looking for in them. But I've always just had this feeling of like, this feels like home. This feels like a place I want to go again. And so anytime there was any chance to get into a boardroom, I was like, that's for me. So I ended up pivoting my career off of some of the public speaking I was doing into doing more writing. And I ended up in a job where I had to put together a 5-inch binder, you know, those big binders, right?
Yes.
And there was anywhere from 500 to 750 pages every month that I would have to view, digest, dot the I, cross the T. Is there a chart? How do we explain this? How do we make this into a story? Steve Garvin was there to help me. I'm like, a story, you know. So everything was about just more reports, bigger reports, charts, pie charts, bar graphs, you know, radar reports of how close are we to what we're doing. And it dawned on me that what was in their head was then common. So what happened in boardroom meetings was all these different minds with different perspectives and different views on what was happening got to one songbook, right? And I used to sing in a choir, and I know that, you know, the tenor part was one person's part, and all these people sang together in their different parts because they're using the same songbook. And so my love of music and performance got tied in there because I'm like, this is a songbook I'm making a songbook. It's reporting fun for everyone. And it just has become this, you know, unique identifier where no one else can like reports, and that's okay because I love them. I'll do them for you, you know.
I love the idea, the analogy that you just used of it being a songbook, right?
Yeah.
You know, because my career has changed dramatically, you know, from, you know, where I was dealing with kind of, well, honestly, similar to you. Every month we would produce 2 full binders like that every month, you know, of all the stuff that was going on in the business during that month. And that was just for one location within, you know, a major corporation, right?
Right.
And so, you know, our paperless society was definitely not paperless, but it was interesting that when you learn to speak that language, you know, when you learn to be able to read the financials, that it really does tell a story, right? You know, and oftentimes you need to find people like you who can, you know, put that story into words, you know, translate the numbers that most people aren't speaking into something that's other people do understand. I mean, it's why, you know, when you get, you know, say you've got stock in AT&T and you get your, you know, annual report at the end of the year, you know, it's not just a bunch of financial statements. It's, you know, they tell a story in there, right? You know, they have all kinds of graphs and they have pictures and they have text and all that kind of stuff. But it's about those numbers, you know, what's happening in the business. And the numbers are really kind of the shorthand for what's occurring within that business.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a way in which reports, you know, I took a class in college called How to Lie with Maps. And
Nice.
I ended up, it's about geology and a science requirement or whatever it was. But I ended up using that in my career because reports are how to lie on paper.
Mm-hmm.
That's what a report is. And I think there's a valid reason why a lot of people dismiss reports and they say, I'm just not going to do them, or I don't like them, or I'm allergic to them, because reports lie
Mm-hmm.
to a degree, right?
Yes.
And depending on how good your data is, will determine how much the report is lying.
Yes.
And from that, when I moved away from working full time for someone else, and I moved on to working full time for myself and for other people, my clients, is I was able to get myself in a place where I knew what the lie was.
Mm.
And I knew how I was lying to myself with what I was looking at in my data. And that was a moment when my business really took off, because I had had a part-time business for decades, but it was never full-time. And it
Mm.
didn't get to full-time until I understood how to look at my data and turn
Mm.
it to information. Information is key. Data is, they always you've heard the phrase a data dump.
Yeah.
What do you do with data? It's like confetti. What do you do with confetti when it's on the ground? Nothing. When you have
Right.
confetti, throw it, right? So the difference between data and information, and the difference between thinking and knowing, became this whole intertwined thing that everyone seemed to discombobulate or combobulate. Is there such a word as combobulate?
There is now.
There is now. We're gonna make it one. So this way of being able to say, what am I doing? What do I need to be doing? What am I doing that works that I should keep doing? And what is it I'm doing that I really need to change? And I think a lot of people, especially in your group, a good portion in my group, a lot of people who are heart-centered coaches, they get into a position where they think reading a report is all about numbers and ways that we counted widgets and manipulated it to look like something that is something that we read and then interpret and decide upon, and it's foreign. And really what a business is and what a business does is a business turns words into money.
Mm.
At the core of what a business is, it turns words into money. Now, if there's someone out there I know, if there's a profession I know who does a fabulous job with words, with other people, it's coaches.
Mm. Yes.
See how to really be like, come here, this is nice. Look at this. You can look at this and have a mindset and fix all these things, and everything is great for you. And they know how to sweep and push and hold, and everything's great. And that's what a business is. This is taking words. It just so happens that they equate to dollars that fall into your bank account, right? So this fear of what a report is, to me, is a little bit bizarre that it's coming from coaches. And I think if that's the case, it's because they're not understanding or equating it with the fact that what words do, words become money. And so trying to find what the link is what is important for everyone to look at. And it's not a usual P&L statement, right? You've heard of this, profit and loss.
Yes.
Sure, look at a profit and loss. Sure, understand your profit and loss. If you don't like doing a profit and loss, give the bread to the baker to bake. Have someone else do your P&L. But there are some key reports you should do for yourself that are easy, easy, easy. And I think they will help anyone manage their day better, manage their week, their month, their quarter, their year, right? All of it gets better when we say, is this what it is? And then we have a benchmark to say, well, that's one measurement. What can I do with one measurement? I can add another measurement to it. So now I've seen it twice, right? So now it looks like this, and it came over and was higher a little bit. Why? Right? Let's go figure out why. There's a story,
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
so making reports doesn't have to be foreign, and it doesn't have to be complicated, and it doesn't have to be the standard core that everyone else purports.
Yes. Yeah. Two thoughts. One, I was just, before joining you, this interview, I was walking through the forest up the hill from where I live, and I was actually recording my thoughts about reports, and story and so forth. And I likened it to walking through the forest, and walking through all these trees and having no names for those trees. I mean,
Oh,
I can't,
oh,
I can tell what an evergreen is. I can tell what a deciduous tree is, but I can't, like I couldn't tell you if those were maple or elm or oak or whatever. I just don't have the language for that, right?
okay.
And similarly with reports, and being coaches, authors, speakers, that type of thing, without having the language to kind of step back, and see the forest for the trees, as we like to say, and being able to say, okay, well, this is working and this is not working. This is healthy. This is not healthy, right? And being able to have somewhat more of an objective perspective, but also, it could equally be a subjective, an emotional response, just because I remember giving a speech in a speakers training event that I went to a number of years ago. And one of the things that was said in that training was nobody uses graphs, or charts, when they're telling a story or, speaking on stage, because they're just boring. And so I did a chart of my progression, my life, and how I was going along fine. And then it took this big fall, right? When I got super depressed. And everybody's like, tell me more about that, right? And that was a very emotional moment, all from a chart, right? It was all from a graph that I had drawn with a fat marker. There's think about looking at your bank account, and you're expecting to have a decent balance in it, and you look at it and it's negative, right? That's an emotional response, right? And how do you respond to that in a positive way? How do you look at, what's happening in your business when it's not either when it's not doing what you expected to do because it's doing worse than you expected, or B, because it's doing better than you expected, without some way to measure that, there's no way to tap into, both the more logical perspective or response to what's happening, but also the emotional response to it, right? Much of, for me, story is all about the difference between the way things were and the way things are, or the way they could be, right? And that for us to recognize that difference, we have to make some measurements, right? We have to say, and we can, I was also talking about, like when I'm watching Harry Potter or, some other story, right? And you have the villain, and they're just these really, Voldemort is, the classic villain. He looks like a villain, he acts like a villain, he talks like a villain, right? And having that contrast to, Harry and his friends, to Ron and to Hermione and to, the professors and all that kind of stuff, that we see that difference between those characters, right? And without having that contrast, the story is weak, and by, we don't see reports in there as such, nobody's, I don't remember ever, Harry Potter going to math class and Hermione, talking up about, linear algebra or, calculus or geometry or anything. There was never the magic of math, class that they went to. Although that might be an entertaining experience, and Snape might do really well in that environment.
But you pointed out something good right in the beginning, where you're talking about, did I walk, did I talk, did I breathe, sleep, eat? I think a lot of us have kept that. I certainly have kept a yes or a no or a tick column of, at some points in my life where I was like, I have to make sure I eat a vegetable this week. Like, I went through a weight loss period where I lost 108 pounds. So I was ticking and counting everything, right? And I always wanted to understand, why was I feeling this way? So I kept track of how many calories, how many fat, how many protein, grams and calories, and I made charts and crap. And I was like, oh, now I see it, right? So some things came to light in my diet, right? From measuring and marking and whatever. But I have a more intuitive way that I use when someone's first getting used to reports. Because I have a feeling a lot of people really aren't using reports. And if they are getting a P&L, that's kind of like getting your bank statement in the mail. You're like, I know I spent that much. Don't remind me. Like the P&L is like, okay. So can I share it with you?
Yes, please.
Okay. It's a stoplight.
Nice.
Stoplight of red, yellow, green. And at the top of the stoplight is a person, a money symbol. Oh, you can see my tree out front, and time. Okay. You got people, money, and time. Those are the three main ingredients of a business. And with people, I would put that to even something like words, right? Your words, relationships make a difference. And then a stoplight is a fairly simple way to look at what should we start doing, what should we stop doing, and where do I need to make a choice or choose, right? Where do we need to decide? When you come to a yellow light, some people are automatically hit the floor, right? they zoom and get through it. And other people are like, yellow light, I better stop. And they had enough time. Doesn't matter. But what matters is that through looking at your business intuitively, because that's what coaches are. That's what heartfelt, heart-led solopreneurs and entrepreneurs are. Very intuitive people. And I really dislike conversations where people are like, I dismiss that intuitive stuff. We've got to look at the hard numbers. Oh, please. You look at the hard numbers. I'm looking at my stoplight. When we're first getting used to how to do a report or what a report can have meaning for us, to just do something that says, what am I doing with people that I should stop doing? Just asking yourself that as a repeating question daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually, you will start to see a trend. You will start to see patterns emerge. You'll start to understand why things are the way they are, right? So if your relationships are not right, the right things are not going to happen. When your relationships are great, great things happen. So whatever you're doing with other people hopefully falls into this green zone of, I should keep doing this. And if something you're doing with other people falls into this red zone, right, where I need to stop doing this, right? Some people might go out online and they make a negative comment, or they look at someone and they go, well, I don't like the way this came out. Did you need to say that out loud? Let's stop the negative parts, right?
Sure.
I'm going to keep that to myself. Here's one where, I have the expertise to weigh in. Should I? Or should I not? Sometimes weighing in with your expertise makes people, want to push you away.
Right.
They're not ready to hear it. Right. So there's information behind that. And and every time I'm positive and happy, people like that and like this. Okay. So at least there's a magnetism going on. Right. So I'll keep doing that. Right. And with money, I shouldn't be overspending. I shouldn't be spending too much. I shouldn't be spending so much percent. Right. How much? And then choosing what to do with money, and then what to keep doing with money. I'm going to keep paying my internet bill because that works. Right. And then with time, like, how do you use your time? What do you use your time for? What should you stop doing? Maybe for me, I go, all right, well, I need to stop spending 2.5 hours outside every morning watching the sunrise. Maybe I can cut that down to 2 hours because I need some time. Right.
Yes.
And where am I going to make choices is, okay, now I've got free time. What do I do with it? Oh boy. Right. And what is a good use of my time? What things have worked for me? So whether or not these tie back to a P&L is a separate matter. But just simply using a stoplight assessment for what to do with people, time, money, stop doing, make a choice about, or keep moving forward with. This is a report.
Yeah.
Fun for everyone.
It's a great report. I mean, I can't tell you how many stoplight traffic dashboards we used when I was in that world. I mean, there were stoplights for everything. And the one of the reasons we used that is because everybody could relate to that, what we were talking about, right?
Yeah.
Whether it was engineering or purchasing or, HR or whatever, but everybody could relate to that because we've all stopped at a stoplight,
Yeah.
and the interesting thing too is all that stuff will show up on profit and loss. It won't show up directly on your profit and loss statement, on your income statement. But the one thing that might not be obvious for those who aren't integrated, with the creation of those profit and loss statements is that for every number on that profit and loss statement, there's a dozen pages behind it. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that lead into that. It's not just, okay, well, I came up with this number and my revenue was blah. You've got to keep track of, what's going on in order to indicate, okay, my sales for the month of January is, X, because you kept record of that. And I want to also point out something here that I think is really cool. I recently learned, and I really love looking up, where words come from, the etymology of the words. Record, the CORD part of it is heart.
Yeah.
So, it's the same root as in like courage or, I keep thinking of this lake that we always went to when I was in the Northwest, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, that COUR part of that. I don't know what the Delane part of it means, but the heart of something, when we take the time to stop and pay attention to what we're doing, we're really getting at the heart of the matter, and I love the simplicity of your little traffic diagram, people, money, time, if we can just keep track of those things, see how we're spending our time, see how we're spending our money, see how we're investing or not investing in our relationships, then we can make simple changes that can make a big difference.
Yeah. Some of what works about this is when you don't know. So if you do this every day, let's say, right? How am I doing with people? How am I doing with money? How am I doing with time? And let's say you don't even know what you're doing with money because you don't have money, none's coming in, none's going out. So that's a big goose egg all the way down. It's not a goose egg if you're running a business. It's never a goose egg. It just means something you might need to investigate a little further or warm up to, or start to say, I'm going to actually say, I need to start watching my money. When there are gaps in this, if doing this takes more than 1 minute, and you're seeing gaps consistently in the same box, right? I'm always getting I'm not making choices on my time. There should be a natural way all of these are happening. So it's 10 seconds, and you can even just draw stuff here. These could be words that you put in here. These could be pictures, right? So next to a stop sign for people, right, I might make a fist. I'm going to stop fighting, right? For go sign with people, I make a little heart. I'm going to keep sharing how much I love them. I'm going to actually tell them. I'm going to actually say it out loud. I love you. I think you're great. People are awesome. So are you. We're surrounded by some of the nicest people in the world. And that's a wonderful thing that I want to keep green, right? Yeah. So if I get myself into a position where I'm not enjoying myself and the people are mean, I will go, I'm going to stop hanging out in that group. I don't like those people, or they didn't respond to me. Knowing your audience is a key success indicator. Getting the right audience makes a business succeed.
Yes.
And what most of us are doing out there is we're dancing and tap dancing and going, here's an offer. Here's the thing. I do this. Oh, I can make this so great for you. Look at how much I can help you. Look at you and your needs and me, blah, 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 blah. Hey, if they're the wrong audience, not a single tap dance move is going to budge them.
Mm.
And if you're doing your best tap dance numbers and none of your audience is moving and none of them are going, shut up, take my money, just help me, fix me, engage, can I hire you? It's not that what you're doing is wrong. It's not that what you said or put out there or posted or commented was bad, where a lot of people say, I'm just going to change what I'm posting. You might have the wrong audience.
Yes, absolutely.
Most of us have 90% in front of us are the wrong audience. 90%. So, right, when the stoplight comes to looking at people and making sure that you have the right best audience in front of you, and you get to a point where you know this audience loves me and I love them, I'm able to help them, everything does take off. And just by looking at a stoplight report for people or a stoplight report for people, money, and time will tell you that.
Yes.
And it's a report.
In the description for today's event, I talked about, putting the rocket boosters on your business, right?
Yeah.
Just taking that 1 minute a day, just to recognize, is this going well? Do I feel, so it's interesting that you use the symbols that you do. In my own business, and the way I think about things, I use the smiley face, the dollar sign, and the heart, right? And they each represent different things that I want more hearts, I want more dollars, I want more smiley faces. And what those represent for me is a smile is, how happy am I doing what I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
The dollars is, how effective, how productive, getting the rewards, the results that I want to be getting. And the hearts, of course, are, how well am I engaging? How well are people responding to what I'm putting out there and the way that I'm being? And just by taking, just a moment to look at those things and to say, okay, well, do I have more reds than greens? If I had just stopped while I was, miserable, crunching numbers every day and coming home on the weekends and crying on Sunday night because I had to go into work the next day.
Yes.
And corrected, and realize that there's always, choices available to us, that we're never limited to just one possibility, that there's always a different outcome that we can be creating just by making some quote unquote simple choices, but so often we just get so busy, making that peddling, putting our nose to the grindstone, this is what I do, this is what I've got to do, this is who I am, that we don't take time to step back and look at, those, the people, the money, the time, or the, the hearts, the smiles, and the dollar signs,
Yeah. And there's valid reason for dismissing a P&L and doing your own intuitive report, something like this. This is intuition telling you what these answers are. And people are very intuitive. And the one thing I do with my clients, I don't dismiss intuition. I lean into it and hone into it, because behind that is the key to why everything is the way it is. So if you want to make changes, you have to understand why things are the way they are, right? Then you have to say, oh, why is my waistline getting so big? Why am I eating so much? Why am I drinking so much? Oh, it's behind that. My intuition tells me I don't want to eat that, or my intuition tells me I need to eat a salad. Just the intuition itself is very powerful. And I noticed that we have very similar, a lot of very common people in our groups, right? Some of the same people are in my group as are in your group, and they're wonderfully intuitive. And I especially find that, over 35 years old, people really start to hone their intuition skills. And some of them sell it as what their product and service is intuition. So I don't like to dismiss it at all. And in fact, I lean into it so that we can really tap into what they inherently and intrinsically know, right? Know something is an awareness. And putting it down on something like this, even if you're doing a frowny face for, I don't know what to stop here, or a question mark, right? Or I'm going to make a big star. I did a good job of choosing what to do with the money, right? Give yourself an award. It's great.
Yeah.
Over time, the pattern of these things really add up to you knowing how to make decisions that make your business go where you want it to go.
Absolutely. And and one of the two things, first of all, when I was crunching the numbers day in, day out, I mean, that's what I was doing, and I made a lot of decisions based on, what the numbers were. I rarely, if ever, checked in with my heart, right? Or with my intuition. And it just wasn't part of my being. And I took a really rude awakening, a shake by the universe, picking me up my toes and turning me upside down, and saying, hey, wait, this isn't working and you really need to wake up, for me to start really tapping into that power. And it doesn't negate that the two things aren't in opposition, don't have to be in opposition to each other, right? They don't have to be opposing. They can work together. And when they work together, that's when really cool things happen. It's awesome to be able to make Daniel Kahneman, an economist, has a really popular book, and I think the work that he did led to a Nobel Prize, but thinking fast and slow, right? That there's times to think fast, intuitively. There's times to think slowly, to take a step back and to look at where you're at. And one of the things that facilitates, makes that stepping back possible, is how well we are doing at keeping track of things, right? Even if you just did, and I'd be curious, like, do you have a log or something of those traffic? Because the whiteboard that you've got would, you'd erase every day, but is there a way to keep a record, a history of that information?
Yes, as a matter of fact, there is. I'm so glad you asked. You take a picture of it, and then you build all the pictures together in a collage, or you build your week into a GIF. So you're looking at, oh, I went up, down. Oh, I went up, down, right? You could see trends. You could do 30 of these together in a GIF and go, that was my month. My month was full of blank spots on red people. What am I doing? Right? And you're just watching a GIF. Right? So photograph your board, take it on a piece of paper. If you want to build this in Excel, that's fine too. You can certainly, build this in Excel and just copy the cells and then total them up like you had. When you did your little X I exercised or X I ate or 0 I didn't, I'm sure you tabulated it.
I did.
So it does help to go back and look at this, or it even helps to say, why did it seem like Tuesday was such a bad day for me? Oh, look what I did on Monday.
Yes.
Oh, look at my Monday. I had no idea what I was doing on Monday. I was all over the place. I was still sleepy from the Super Bowl weekend. What a disaster, right?
Yes.
So whatever it is, you can find reasons, you can find the why behind it. But I think people intuitively know, once you even capture this and get through the process of, I wrote it down, right? The power of the pen. Once it's out of my mind and into, whatever, a lot of times I don't have to go back and look at my pictures. I intuitively know it. There's an awareness because I wrote it. So I'm instinctively aware of what's going on, and I'll know exactly where I want to spend my next moment for this. And so this ends up being something that feeds the business as to why you get into business, but then it also feeds how you plan and how you research something and say, oh, I got all the way down to 6th Avenue with this thing. And I needed to back up to the beginning to say, I didn't do enough market research first. And you'll see that from this stoplight report. You go, I wasted so much money. How did I possibly waste money here? Or where did the money go? The money went towards paying for something that, when I look at it, I didn't have the data I needed to know that this was not a viable option in the marketplace. Oh, absolutely. I need to do market research. All right, so next venture, I'll do more market research. I'm going to front end load it up with tons of research. So you'll see these little gaps in what am I doing or what am I doing wrong? Because a lot of people will just look at it and go, well, I'm going to start posting something different. I'm going to change my logo. I'm going to change the background. I'm going to change the questions I ask. We're going to get rid of all the people in my group and start over again. It's like, wait a minute, wait a minute. Look at what you're doing first and get an understanding, right? Understanding is a very different thing. Understanding, I use understanding rocks, is what something is, what it's not, and how it changes. And so understanding how it changes comes from looking at it the same way over and over again. So part of why reports are so powerful is it's a constant baseline that says you still have to answer this. You have to answer what you're doing with people. You have to answer what you're doing with your time, and you have to answer how you're handling money to run a business well.
And as you were saying that, I was thinking about, how, going back to the intuitive piece, that one of the ways that our intuition becomes stronger is by investing in it. And that doesn't have to be money. It's just being aware. Intuition is largely, how aware we are of what's going on around us. And there's all kinds of stuff that we are processing, taking in, but aren't really aware that we're taking in, right? I mean, as I sit here in this room and I've got all kinds of visual stimuli around me, I'm not paying much attention to much other than, what I'm seeing here on the screen.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that I don't at the same time see all the stuff that's going on around me, right? And the way that ties in with reporting and recording is, what things am I paying attention to? What things am I noticing? And by having a record of that, a history of just tapping into our intuition, into our experience, our intuition becomes stronger, but our logic also becomes better. We make better decisions because we're paying better attention to what's happening, around us. And here's a part that I really like: you'll tell better stories because you have better information. You're able to share the story, provide richer detail in that story, because you have captured and paid attention to what was happening in different moments, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I think there's definitely a way we capture more in our minds than we, would ever be able to detail out. We would never be able to come up with enough words to describe an entire 40 minutes of a day. We would run out of time doing the words themselves. So there's that book Blink, right? Where you just intuitively look at something and go, this guy's a jerk, right? Or I love this book. She's so spot on with the way she's going forward with her business, right? Whatever it is that you're magnetically attracted to, whatever you find something that you're drawn away from, those intuitive ways of knowing come from an experience that we have being applied. And so what reports do is they say, could this be something you will apply? Reports are not the answers. Reports feed decisions. They're not decisions themselves. So when you look at the way you feed your head, you do want to have a consistent diet of information that you're able to say, oh, I didn't even look at that. You would even know what you don't know.
Yes.
To say, I need to go look into this missing piece. I've discovered what I'm not looking at. Right. And that's blind spot erasing type of stuff. And it comes from doing a 1-minute drill of doing a stoplight report where you have 9 things you got to draw. That's it.
Absolutely. And I want to point one thing out, with my little X's, the daily routine checklist that I use. One of the things that I'll notice too is when I don't do that, and it really does take about a minute to do it. I mean, it doesn't, and I've got about, 30 different items on it. And all I do is scan through it and say, okay, did that, whatever. But there are whole periods when I don't do it. And I just went through a period like that recently, and it was partly because I wasn't happy about the way things were going on in my life, right? So I like, okay, I'm going to pretend like it's not there. I'm not going to pay any attention to it.
Right. In what?
On for me, going on in my business, going on with the people that I'm working with, so that I want to stop and go back and record that information. Most of the time I just start where I am and move forward.
Right.
Don't worry so much about, what happened, what I missed. But just there's value, even when you are disappointed by what's happening in your life, there's value in recognizing that you're disappointed. It's kind of like, when you're watching Harry Potter just because it's so popular, or when I was watching the Fantastic Beasts, her new series that's out in movies, and the bad guy is just so bad, and you want him just to go away. Having the contrast between that really evil and manipulative person and the way things turn out at the end, without having that contrast between the disappointment and the final happy resolution, the victory isn't as sweet.
Ooh.
Because you don't get the full sense of it. So even if you are disappointed, make a note of that. Put frowny faces on your traffic light.
Totally. I might go here and I say to myself, I really don't like the way I spent money, and I've got a little frowny face that I'm going to give myself for that. And then it becomes a story, of how many frowny faces can Wendy put up with before she changes what she's doing. Let's see how far I go with this, right? Because it is in my domain to control. And that's what reports do, is they say, I'm going to make you articulate your domain. What is your world? What are you controlling? And this also helps you to define and decide and understand what you're not controlling.
Yeah.
I control the post I make, not how people respond to it, right? Pew, draw a line. It helps define who you are. It helps define what your business does. It defines simultaneously what your business does not do. Differentiates you. You easily have a way of understanding how you need to fit into a marketplace of these things that are being sold with other people next to you, where you're like, oh, she's so much faster than I am. Huh. Well, I better look at my time, right? Let me go look at that time column again. How is she faster, right? I want to be faster. Or maybe I don't care that I'm not fast, right?
Or maybe there's a value in the way that maybe there's more value in you being slower than her, because her fast response misses whatever it is.
Yeah. I came to that.
Better customer service. Maybe you give better reports, maybe whatever. But being able to recognize that and say, okay, what is the going on here, that there's this contrast between your benchmark, the person you're looking at, your peer, whatever.
Right. And that kind of shaped my whole funnel. How I set up my business, the whole business model I'm following is not the typical pyramid, right? That a lot of us know, where you just let everyone into the group, and then the next group is a group of paying groups, and then there's more paying for the group, and then one-on-one is the top of the pyramid. I don't even do that first bottom level at all. I don't even do it. It's not for me. What I enjoy is when people give me feedback and they say, I feel heard when I call you. And that makes me just light up warm and fuzzies inside. I got smiles all over the place. And that's my joy column, right? Your little smiley face column. That's my smiley face column. They felt heard. What? Do you know how luxurious it is to feel heard? I think it's wonderful to feel heard. So I always want my people to feel heard. So I'll go ahead and I'll book 1 hour and spend 2 with you. Yeah. Yeah. I want to hear. Yeah.
I'm with you. Yes. I mean, for me, that's that being heard, being seen, being, and really heard and really seen, not just, okay, yeah, I hear you, but like, really, I hear you.
Yeah. It's frozen. It's totally frozen. I'm not frozen. Am I frozen, or just you frozen? Are you posing? Are you trying to do that for fun? It's got to be internet and all this terrible weather. Everyone is so cold. I'm so sorry everyone is so cold. I hope everyone warms up soon. We're all going to have to start stomping our feet. But it's still frozen. This is a good minute. I could actually finish populating my stoplight. I think Steve has left the building. Oh no. Oh, well. I hope that some of you have found some value in doing possibly something as simple as a stoplight chart and making sure that you have found a way. Maybe I'm going to be more determined about how I choose things with money, right? I'm going to be determined on that. And I'm definitely going to spend more time with people, more time. Everything I do with time is a go. I've definitely enjoyed my time here today. I thank you so much for having me, Steve. If anyone has any questions, I'm Wendy Bartlett, and I have my own group called Think New Thoughts, Savvy Solving for Smart, Successful Solopreneurs, and my business is called Speak with Wonder. If you'd like to like the page, I would adore that, and I always welcome private messages. Thanks, everyone. Okay, bye. I think it's just me, so bye. End meeting for all or leave meeting. I don't know. I'll leave.
But so I'm not really sure what's happening here, but I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Wendy Bartlett today. I certainly did, and feel a lot richer because of our time together. If you have any questions or thoughts, please share those in the comments and we will respond to them and continue the story. Until next time, be the bright light in someone's dark night. Ta-ta.